Difficult conversations do not have to feel conflicting. They don't have to damage relationships. They can actually do the opposite. If we approach a difficult conversation with clarity, focus, and empathy, they become the moments that build trust and build respect. In this video, we're going to cover the exact framework for having difficult conversations with your team. Now, conflict is one of the toughest parts of leadership. None of us like it. We don't want to do it, but it really is what will make you an amazing manager. There is a really important Tim Ferriss quote: a person's success in life can be measured by how many uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have. And from a very young age, we love to avoid conflict. Nobody likes it, but to be a great leader, we have to lean into it. So I'm going to give you a tutorial on exactly how to do that today and become a real master of these difficult conversations, including what happens when they get defensive or argue back. So step number one is prepare. If you want to help ease the nerves and make sure you say the thing you need to say, just prepare. You can write down exactly what you need to say. You can even take your notes into that conversation. I've done that many times. And it just means we say exactly what they need to hear instead of kind of fumbling our words if we go into it. The framework I've developed is called the 4 Ps: purpose, problem, truth, and path. If you want to download a PDF with my 4 Ps framework to use every single time you have a difficult conversation, you can get it completely for free. Just go to the link in the description. Firstly, start with the purpose. Why are we having this conversation? What's the outcome you want? And this is where you help lower some of that defensiveness, because you can explain exactly why it's important we're having this conversation. We can tell them, we care about you so much that I want to tell you this thing to help you grow, to help you move forward. Just help them to understand why it is you're having this conversation. We're not just nitpicking, we're not just telling them bad things for the sake of it. We really want to help them to grow. Next is problem. Be super clear. Was it a missed deadline? Was their work not up to standard? Was it something they said, their attitude, lack of ownership? Just be really clear on that problem statement. Then proof. Try and come with facts. 3 deadlines were missed, or this email wasn't responded to for 4 days and it's an important client, or I'm not seeing any level of ownership over your KPIs. Just something that they can really connect it to in their brain and they can see and think, okay, this is how I grow. Now finally is path. So it's the future, otherwise known as impact or consequence. What is going to happen in the future if they don't change their behavior? So it could be something really small, like we're going to have to take some of this responsibility away, we're going to have a check-in more regularly, or it could be something a bit more formal like performance management, or even lose their job. The first way we can begin to master these uncomfortable conversations is to have a framework and go into the conversation with that framework. If they then get defensive, and this is one of our biggest fears as managers, we go deliver that difficult feedback and they really disagree, argue, maybe get confrontational. The first thing we're going to do to smooth that over is use that why. So start with the purpose at the beginning of the conversation. This really helps to kind of pull you onto a level playing field and say, this is not me versus you. We are together and we are fighting the problem together. And so you will say at the beginning, I am having this conversation with you because I care about your growth. But then if they still get confrontational, if they still get defensive, and you feel kind of really wrapped up in it and really unable to articulate yourself well, you can say, I feel like this is turning into an emotional conversation now and we're both in a quite heightened state of emotion. Can we talk about this in a few hours, or can we talk about this tomorrow? Because if you are both, or just one of you, and it might be even just you and not them, if one of you or both of you is in a heightened state of emotion, you are not going to do anything constructive. Like, no constructive change is going to happen off the back of that conversation. So I would always just say, look, I'm glad we spoke, but I can feel us getting emotional. I can feel me getting emotional, or I can feel me feeling as though my emotions are really getting stirred. And it's upsetting me, or it's making me feel uneasy. Can we please pick it up tomorrow? That's something you can have under your wing. But then the final one is, if that person is kind of throwing excuses at you, so saying, this other person was to blame, or it was this team, or what about the other person that did this, or I think you did this even, and kind of like taking away any sense of accountability and just putting it on other people, or even putting it back on you. Something I find really helpful to say there for both parties is just, I hear you, I understand that, and I want to have a conversation with you about that other person doing the thing, or about me doing the thing, or about this different excuse. That will also be dealt with just as seriously as this has been dealt with now, and I hear you and I understand it. However, this conversation, we need to speak about, you and I, about the thing that happened here, and I don't want us to get lost going around the houses on other things. You can also ask questions, so instead of just like delivering it to them, say something like, how do you feel about this? How do you think your behavior could have impacted someone else on the team? Or how do you think you could not miss that deadline next time? How do you think missing that deadline? Almost like coaching them through it instead of it having to be me versus you. It's almost, let's talk about this together and find a solution together. And the very last step is you need to have this clearly documented. So close with clarity. Say something along the lines of, let's agree next week we're going to do X, Y, and Z, making sure that both sides leave with an action plan. And then just follow up on an email to confirm we spoke about X, Y, and Z. Thank you for the conversation. If you have any more thoughts or questions, come to me. Making sure we always have those conversations documented, because whatever the outcome needs to be, the path, the future, we can get ourselves into a real pickle sometimes in HR if we just don't document those conversations. And encourage your team to do the same as well, Encourage them to document any difficult conversations that they have. Difficult conversations do not have to feel conflicting. They don't have to damage relationships. They can actually do the opposite. If we approach a difficult conversation with clarity, focus, and empathy, they become the moments that build trust and build respect. Try this next time and just watch the difference. And I'd love to hear your greatest tips for difficult conversations. Please leave them in the comments. We can all learn from each other.